Welcome to our deep dive. Today, we're cracking open Robert Greene's Mastery.
Oh, this is a good one.
It is, but we're not just going to, summarize it.
Right.
We want to really pull out the useful stuff, the tools and strategies that our listeners can actually use.
Absolutely. Greene really delivers on that front.
He does. And
Yeah.
the examples he uses, talk about a lineup. Darwin, Da Vinci, Benjamin Franklin.
Even Mozart.
Exactly. And one of the things that really struck me is how Greene just dismantles this whole idea of the genius myth.
Yeah, he just throws that out the window, doesn't he?
Completely. He seems to be saying that mastery is less about, being born brilliant and more about, well, what exactly?
It's about connecting, I think.
Mhm.
Connecting with something bigger than yourself. Greene argues that humans have this primal desire for a deeper connection to reality, and that's where mastery comes in.
So it's not just about skill, it's about like a whole transformation of mind and character.
Exactly. It's a journey, not a destination.
Yeah.
You're constantly evolving, pushing your boundaries. Like take Darwin, for example.
Okay, yeah, he's a great example. His work revolutionized our understanding of, well, everything.
But here's the thing. Darwin himself admitted he wasn't some kind of genius.
Yeah.
He was just incredibly curious and dedicated to his work.
So it's more about that relentless pursuit, that commitment to going deeper and deeper.
Absolutely. And finding your life's task, that's where it all begins, according to Greene.
Oh, okay, so let's talk about that. What does he mean by life's task? It sounds kind of grand, doesn't it?
It does. But it's simpler than you might think. Think back to your childhood. What were you drawn to? What activities did you lose yourself in?
Like, what could I just do for hours and never get bored?
Exactly. Those passions, those innate inclinations, they're clues to your life's task. For Darwin, it was collecting beetles as a kid. That fascination with the natural world, that was his starting point.
Wow, that's interesting. So even something as seemingly insignificant as collecting beetles can be a signpost, huh?
It can. It's about recognizing those threads that run through your life, connecting the dots. But it's not always easy, right?
Especially if, say, you're stuck in a job that feels totally soul-crushing, miles away from those childhood passions.
It happens. But it's never too late to reconnect with that inner force. Greene talks about how sometimes those early inclinations might manifest in unexpected ways. Like, look at Yoki Matsuoka.
Who's that?
She was a tennis prodigy as a kid, incredibly skilled.
Okay, but how does that lead to mastery?
Well, she eventually combined that love for the mechanics of the hand with a fascination for robotics. And boom, she ends up pioneering the field of neurobotics.
Whoa, so she merged two seemingly separate passions into this whole new field. That's incredible.
Right. It's about weaving your own unique path, like Da Vinci did. He wasn't just a painter. He was an engineer, an inventor, an anatomist.
It's like he saw connections everywhere.
Exactly. And that's what Greene wants us to do. Find those connections, embrace our multifaceted self. So let's say you've had that aha moment. You've tapped into your life's task. What's the next step?
Yeah, how do you actually get good at it? Like world-class good?
Well, this is where Greene's take on apprenticeship comes in.
Oh, apprenticeship. Isn't that a bit old-fashioned?
It gives it a whole new spin. It's not about fetching coffee or climbing some corporate ladder. It's about the transformation of your mind
Okay, I'm intrigued. So how does this mind transformation happen?
through three key stages: deep observation, skill acquisition, and embracing failure.
Deep observation. What does that even look like?
Imagine yourself as an anthropologist dropped into a new culture. You wouldn't just watch people, right?
You'd want to understand their customs, their beliefs, all the little things that make them tick.
Exactly. That's deep observation. It's about deciphering the hidden curriculum of your field, understanding not just the what, but the why behind everything.
Ah, so it's about going beyond the surface, really understanding the nuances. I like that.
And once you've observed, you move into skill acquisition. It's about deliberate, focused practice, honing your craft with intensity.
So no more just dabbling around. This is serious commitment time.
Greene suggests dedicating at least 5 hours a day to your craft. He calls it the 5-hour rule.
Wow, 5 hours a day. That's intense. But I guess that's the kind of dedication it takes to reach mastery.
Think about how much progress you could make with that level of focus. What skills could you develop? What breakthroughs could you achieve?
It's a good question to ask ourselves, isn't it? How much time are we really dedicating to our passions, to those things we want to master?
It's about making that conscious choice, carving out the time and space to truly immerse yourself in your craft. But here's the thing. It's not going to be a smooth ride. There will be setbacks, there will be mistakes.
That's where embracing failure comes in, right? Greene talks a lot about that.
He does, and it's such a crucial part of the journey. Look at Henry Ford, for example.
Oh, yeah, the guy who basically invented the modern automobile.
But you know what? His path to success was paved with failures. Numerous setbacks, design flaws, financial struggles.
I never knew that. So what was his secret? How did he keep going?
He didn't see failure as the end, but as feedback. Each setback was an opportunity to learn, to refine his approach. It's about that resilience, that willingness to pick yourself up and try again, even when it's tough.
That's such a valuable lesson, especially in a world that often glorifies instant success and overnight sensations.
It's about playing the long game, trusting the process. And this ties into another key concept from Greene, the alchemy of knowledge.
Alchemy, like turning lead into gold.
Sort of. But in this case, it's about transforming information into wisdom, into something that truly shapes your understanding and your actions.
So it's not just about reading books or listening to podcasts.
It's about actively engaging with the material. Take notes, ask questions, challenge assumptions. Experiment. Greene encourages us to recreate experiments, analyze data, and really wrestle with the concepts we're learning.
So it's about taking ownership of your learning, finding a style that works best for you.
Exactly. If you're a hands-on learner, build something, take it apart, put it back together. Find ways to make the knowledge come alive.
This reminds me of something we talked about earlier, the importance of mentorship.
Ah, yes. A good mentor can be invaluable in this process. They've already walked the path you're on. They can guide you, offer insights, and help you navigate those inevitable challenges.
So it's about finding someone who embodies mastery in your field, someone whose experience you can learn from.
But it's also about choosing wisely. Greene emphasizes that not all mentors are created equal. You need someone who aligns with your values, someone you respect and admire.
And even with the best mentor in the world, there comes a point where you have to step out of their shadow, right?
That's a crucial point. Look at Michael Faraday, mentored by the brilliant Humphrey Davy.
Right, one of the leading scientists of his time.
But Faraday realized that to truly revolutionize the field of electromagnetism, he had to break away from Davy's influence. It took courage, but he trusted his own instincts, even when they challenged the prevailing wisdom.
So it's that delicate balance between learning from the masters and forging your own path. What a powerful lesson.
It is. And it brings us to another crucial dimension of mastery, social intelligence.
Social intelligence. So we're not just talking about being brilliant in isolation.
Absolutely not. Mastery isn't just about individual achievement. It's about understanding human behavior, navigating complex social landscapes, and building meaningful relationships.
Because, let's be honest, even the most brilliant ideas won't get very far if you can't communicate them effectively, collaborate with others, and build a network of support.
Exactly. And that's where social intelligence comes in. Greene talks about developing a dimensional mind, that ability to retain childlike curiosity while simultaneously accumulating knowledge and refining your social skills.
Like a blend of wisdom and wonder.
Yes. Think of someone like Buckminster Fuller, always pushing boundaries, challenging conventions, but also deeply engaged with the world around him.
His geodesic dome is such a great example. It's innovative, functional, and visually stunning, a testament to his dimensional mind.
Absolutely. But Greene also warns us about some social pitfalls to avoid. He talks about naivete, rigidity, and self-obsessiveness as traps that can derail our progress.
Okay, let's break those down. Naivete. That sounds like being too trusting, maybe?
More like not seeing the full picture. It's about developing the ability to read between the lines, understand people's motivations, and navigate those subtle power dynamics at play in any social situation.
Ah, so it's not just about being nice, it's about being savvy, discerning.
Exactly. And then there's rigidity. That's about getting stuck in old ways of thinking, clinging to outdated methods, even when they're no longer serving you.
So it's about staying flexible, open to new ideas, willing to adapt.
Precisely. And finally, self-obsessiveness. This is about losing sight of the bigger picture, getting caught up in your own ego instead of focusing on the work itself.
It's like that saying, it's not about you. Mastery is about contributing something meaningful to the world, not about feeding your own ego.
It's about finding that balance between personal ambition and a genuine desire to make a positive impact. That's the heart of social intelligence, according to Greene.
This has been such a fascinating exploration of mastery so far. We've talked about finding your life's task, the transformative power of apprenticeship, and now the importance of cultivating social intelligence and a dimensional mind.
And we've seen how these principles have played out in the lives of some truly remarkable individuals. It's inspiring, isn't it?
It is. It really makes you think about your own journey, your own potential, and there's still so much more to explore.
Stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive into mastery, where we'll continue to unpack Greene's insights and uncover even more strategies for unlocking your full potential.
We'll be back soon.
Back again, digging deeper into mastery.
Yeah, this book just keeps giving, And one thing that's really hitting me now is this whole connection to reality thing.
Greene makes a big deal out of that, doesn't he? But what's interesting is it's not some mystical thing like going off to meditate in a cave.
Right, it's not about detaching from the world. It almost feels like the opposite.
It does. It's like through mastery, you become even more in the world, but you see it differently.
Okay, I think I get you. So it's like by mastering something, you're actually mastering your relationship to reality.
That's a great way to put it. And it ties back to those hands-on aspects of mastery we talked about earlier. Like, remember deep observation. That's a prime example.
In the apprenticeship stage, right. But how does that connect to reality?
Think about Darwin. His big breakthrough didn't come from just reading books. It came from actually being out in the world, observing nature firsthand.
Yeah, all those years on the Beagle, sailing around, collecting specimens, really immersing himself in the natural world.
Exactly. And that's what led him to see the patterns, the connections that others missed. It was through that direct experience that he began to understand the reality of evolution.
So it's like you're becoming a student of life itself, not just a student of some isolated subject.
It is. And that applies no matter what your field is. Look at Da Vinci. We all know him for the Mona Lisa.
But he was so much more than just a painter.
Oh, yeah. Engineer, inventor, anatomist. The guy was all over the place. But there was a method to his madness. He had this insatiable curiosity, always experimenting, exploring, connecting things.
His notebooks are legendary, full of sketches and ideas on everything from flying machines to the human heart. It's like his mind was constantly making these leaps.
And that's a key element of mastery, according to Greene. Developing that dimensional mind, seeing the connections between things, synthesizing knowledge.
So it's not just about how much you know, it's about how you use what you know, how you make those connections, right?
Exactly. And that's where mentorship can play such a crucial role. A good mentor can help you see the bigger picture, guide you toward those insights that might have taken you years to discover on your own.
Right, because they've already walked the path, made their own connections, but at some point you have to break free from the mentor, right? Find your own voice.
Greene talks about this with the example of Faraday. He was incredibly fortunate to have Humphrey Davy as a mentor early on.
Yeah, one of the top scientists of the time.
But Faraday ultimately realized that to make his own groundbreaking discoveries in electromagnetism, he had to step out from under Davy's shadow. He had to trust his own insights, even when they went against the grain.
So it's that tension, isn't it, between learning from the masters and forging your own path. That must have taken some serious courage on Faraday's part.
Absolutely. And this ties into another of Greene's points. Mastery requires a willingness to challenge the status quo, to experiment, to take risks, even to embrace failure.
It's funny, we think of masters as these infallible figures, but they got there through trial and error, just like the rest of us.
And probably even more so. They're pushing boundaries, so they're bound to bump into walls, make mistakes.
Like Henry Ford. I mean, we associate him with the Model T mass production, but his early attempts were, well, pretty disastrous.
A lot of field designs, financial struggles. But he kept going. That's the key. He didn't let those setbacks define him. He used them as fuel.
So it's not just about talent or intelligence. It's about that resilience, that grit, that determination to keep going when everyone else would quit.
And this connects to something that might seem counterintuitive. The importance of slowness on the path to mastery.
Slowness. That's not a word we usually associate with achievement. I mean, we live in a world of instant everything, right?
I know. But Greene makes a compelling case for taking your time, really immersing yourself in the process. Think about Marcel Proust. He spent years, even decades, crafting his masterpiece in search of lost time.
And people thought he was just this dilettante wasting his life away.
But he was actually deeply immersed in his craft, just on a different timescale. He understood that true mastery doesn't happen overnight. It takes time to digest the knowledge, to allow the insights to percolate.
So it's about patience, which isn't exactly a virtue we celebrate in our culture.
That's right. And this brings us back to how we approach learning in general. Remember Greene's concept of the alchemy of knowledge. It's not just about consuming information, it's about actively engaging with it, making it your own.
So instead of just highlighting passages in a book, we should be recreating the experiments, debating the conclusions, really getting our hands dirty with the material.
Absolutely. And this is where understanding your own learning style is so crucial. Are you a visual learner, a kinesthetic learner? Do you learn best through collaboration? Figure out what works for you and lean into it.
That's a great reminder. We all have different strengths, different ways of processing information. And I think this ties back to the dimensional mind idea as well, right? Making those unique connections, forging your own understanding.
Absolutely. And a perfect example of this is Buckminster Fuller. He was always challenging the status quo, coming up with radical ideas for everything from architecture to transportation.
His geodesic dome is such a classic example. It's innovative, functional, and just beautiful to look at.
It's a testament to Fuller's unique way of thinking, his ability to synthesize knowledge from different fields and come up with something truly original.
It's inspiring, isn't it? And it really highlights the power of mastery, not just to achieve something in the present, but to create something that transcends time and circumstance, something that leaves a lasting impact.
That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not just being good at something, but using that mastery to make a real difference in the world.
Back again for our final deep dive into mastery with Robert Greene.
It's been quite a journey already, hasn't it?
It has. We've talked about finding that life's task, going through the apprenticeship, developing social intelligence.
And that dimensional mind.
Right. But, there's still this lingering question. What does it actually look like to reach mastery?
Yeah, is there like a finish line? Do you just wake up one day and bam, you're a master?
I wish it were that easy.
Right. Greene doesn't really frame it as this end point you reach. It's more like a state of being,
Okay, so it's not like climbing a mountain and planting your flag at the summit.
more like surfing, I think. You're always riding the wave, adjusting, refining your technique.
I like that. Constantly evolving, never quite reaching a static endpoint. And this is where Greene talks about fusing the intuitive and the rational.
That's a key part of it, isn't it? But what does that actually mean? How do you, like, merge intuition with logic?
Yeah, I'm kind of struggling with that one too.
Think about it like this. All those hours of practice, observation, experimentation, it all starts to come together seamlessly.
So your gut instinct is aligned with your rational understanding.
Exactly. Like those jazz musicians who can just improvise effortlessly, but it's built on years of mastering the scales and chords.
It's like they're thinking and feeling at the same time, but it's so fluid you can't even tell where one ends and the other begins.
Greene uses Marcel Proust as an example.
Right.
Remember, he spent over a decade writing In Search of Lost Time.
Yeah, a pretty massive undertaking.
It's a book full of these intricate details, these psychological insights, and this incredible grasp of human memory and perception.
It's like he was able to tap into some deeper level of consciousness, to write from a place beyond just, everyday thinking.
And then there's Einstein, whose theories of relativity were revolutionary, but they weren't just the result of raw intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
He used these thought experiments, these imaginative leaps, that he then backed up with rigorous mathematical analysis.
Like that one where he imagined writing on a beam of light.
Exactly. It's playful, it's creative, but it's also deeply analytical.
It's like he was using both sides of his brain, the intuitive and the rational, to unlock these profound truths about the universe.
And that, I think, is what Greene is getting at with mastery. It's about seeing the world with greater clarity and insight, making those connections that others miss, and then using that understanding to create something truly extraordinary.
But it's not just about having some aha moment in isolation, right? There's also this element of bringing it back to reality, making a tangible impact.
Absolutely. Greene talks about the return to reality, using your mastery to actually make the world a better place.
And this is where Temple Grandin really shines. Her understanding of animal behavior has led to real-world changes in how we treat livestock.
That's mastery in action. She's not just theorizing, she's actually improving the lives of millions of animals.
It's a powerful reminder that true mastery isn't self-serving. It's about using your gifts to benefit others.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I think that's a key takeaway for our listeners. Mastery isn't just about personal achievement. It's about making a contribution, leaving the world a little bit better than you found it.
It's about finding your purpose, honing your skills, and then using those skills to make a real difference.
And remember, it's a journey anyone can embark on. It's not about being some kind of chosen one. It's about making the choice to commit yourself to this path of learning, growth, and contribution.
Greene's mastery has given us so much to think about, so many tools and strategies to apply in our own lives.
It's been an incredible exploration. We hope our listeners feel inspired to take what they've learned and use it to unlock their own potential, whatever that looks like for them.
And remember, it's not about becoming the next Darwin or Einstein or Grandin. It's about becoming the best version of yourself. That's what true mastery is all about.
And that's what makes it so exciting, isn't it? The journey is unique for each of us, but the possibilities are endless.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Robert Greene's mastery.